Hello, my name is Noel, and today we're going to take a quick look at a game called Elden Ring. It's not going to be a review per se, but it's more like a strain of thought. Live gameplay commentary on the wonderful world of Elden Ring that also happens to run a bit shite on PC. Oh, it is much like Dark Souls. You can... With a couple of caveats is that when you play solo, you can summon this wonderful double jumping goat horse. And as you walk around, you will... And there are giant beasts all over the place, and they do not screw around. This is as good introduction to a From Software game as you can ever get, isn't it? Keep in mind, while this beast is imposing and drops in like a ton of bricks, you don't actually have to fight him. That is the funny thing. There's only a handful of bosses where you need to actually fight, which is hidden behind doors. And of course, the world is wonderfully realized and beautifully sculpted. With so many beautiful and simply just gorgeous places. And a lot of loot. In fact, in order to get some of all the good equipment, you need to you will explore the world map and go to specific places. And there's a lot of places, and each place has a little checkpoint. But in essence, each ruin has usually a tiny some surrounding NPCs, a hidden entrance, and maybe a boss or some NPCs or some enemies in the cave. Once you go into that cave, you will find a chest behind the door. Which may or may, if there's a boss, there is a gate in front. If there's not, you can pretty much just run straight through and open the door and loot, while the enemies are wailing at you.
Please, I can read them. Your fingers, please, your fingers. The fingers I served once prophesied. A tarnished would one day become Elden Lord and restore the Golden Order. Surely you see it too. The gold that enshrouds the heavens. The great tree which begets the pillars of light. Oh, tarnished, hasten to the foot of the tree. And whatever you might face, the fingers will surely guide you.
And that summarizes what you're supposed to do in the plot. You need to finger the world and get to the tree. This is very hard to miss, because it's giant, glowing, and humongous. Because this game being what it is, it's huge, expansive, and full of stuff. Another addition, and if you're familiar with Dark Souls, combat is straightforward and the difficulty is insane. But it is varied and being, like I said before, beautiful. Yeah, and keep in mind though, this video is pretty much 100% unscripted. So if I sound a bit distracted, yeah, it is because I'm not pretending, cause you get a more genuine reaction when I fight anal beads than you would otherwise. And of course, the latest addition is that you can do item crafting for fun and profit. Oh, profit isn't that important, but... So, for example, down here there is a fight, which there's a boss I activated by using a one consumable item on this statue. Of these gnomes humping each other. And I'm not entirely sure how much I would like to. You would like to be spoiled, because the game is teeming with enemies, and you can fast travel to any point you have explored. The newest addition to the formula is, of course, mounted combat, where I can just stagger things until they die. Yes, almost every enemy can be staggered, countered, blocked, or dodged. And what incompetent game journals don't seem to know is that the difficulty is very asymmetric, whatever you want to call it, where it's based entirely on build and skills. And depending on the size of the fiend, friendly fire is a thing. And the hitboxes are better than ever. Of course, you can still roll, jump and plunge and all of that fun stuff. And enemies are still in love with the idea of a three-pronged combo. Of course, you can still go between the legs, and incidentally, this is also the most efficient place to farm. As there are 3 giants, and they respawn once you touch a fireplace, and each give 1,000 points. So yeah, when I'm talking about difficulty, right? You have it all depends on the equipment and the stats. This is purely a stat-based game. In that way. So if you're really tired of dying, you could just farm this giant forever and increase your vigor or endurance. Or you could go with magic from the get-go and boost that to hell and back. And once you do that, well... and once you do that, you get the benefit of long-range nukes, and you have a potion you can upgrade that refills your magic meter. So instead of having charges, you're just having a mana bar. So far, I haven't found any... I haven't found any way to auto-replenish it. Another beautiful addition to the Elden Ring, and that's to the formula, is dynamic weather. The weather doesn't change, doesn't affect much, but it's there, you know. And naturally, if almost all the humanoids have gear and equipment on them. And if you kill enough of them, there is a chance they will drop the set pieces they are wearing. And since this is a fantasy world, there's also wolves, bandits, 50 flavors of undead, and more undeads, more wolves. There's like so many kinds of zombies to go around. Eldritch abominations like this squid thingy. Is surprisingly agile and deadly, all things considered. And of course, it has to be said that the jumping around like a loon has its benefits. And if the fall is just and should the fall be just about right, you will avoid a certain death. Of course, elemental shenanigans is in full effect. Of course, the irony is that But this also makes the game a bit... it's a bit more absurd in many ways. Or rather, should I say, no, not absurd. Immersive. And of course there are dragons, there's like a lot of dragons. And they don't mess around, and naturally, you have the scaling system. As for the plot, well... The ring... Somebody broke the ring, and then they took all the pieces for themselves and spread them all around, and the world turned into a bag of shite. You know, everybody is a bit molded, maggot-ridden, and emaciated. I mean, look at this giant, right? Does that look like a healthy individual? I don't know. Naturally, you can invade, can join other people's games. You can piss off giants, you can fight. Other people, other things on horseback. Of course, this fellow is a no-name NPC, so... This one will just respawn. And should your horse take too much damage, well, then these... then will be... then it will be dispelled, and if there is a checkpoint statue nearby, well, then you can respawn at the checkpoint with everything intact. One thing they have completely went away with is the durability system. Naturally, around the world map there is also a bunch of scattered camps, full of these vicious camps. The main reason to visit these camps is because they have loot or enemies to kill that might have some equipment you'd like to eventually unlock by murdering them enough times. Because that's the life of an adventurer. I mean tarnished. I mean chosen undead. And speaking of undeads, I have weapons and equipment. Weapons can be equipped with something called Ashen, which is just a fancy-pantsy way of saying I add special effect to my stuff. For a painfully short duration. Which means that, well, everything, elemental effects is in full effect. So every enemy is weak against something. Undeads happens to be very prevalent, so I'm having a sword with holy on them. Oh, that means that not all is well and perfect in paradise. The game have stutters, slow down. It has crashed several times. Sometimes it have stopped, just plainly stopped. Of course, you have this potion you can mix stuff into, and Flask of Wondrous Physics. You have blessings, you have curses, you have a shit ton of items you can just equip. And of course, you have the mandatory. Let's say, for example, I can put on a different outfit if I want to. So now I am horny. Aha. So now I can go and finger the world and leave a... and leave messages, and if people appraise them, I will get... yeah, we'll get stats from it. Of course, it's a RPG game, so some dungeon crawling is to be expected. Also, there's not so much... you can still parry, but only if the weapon you have, or the shield you have equipped, comes with the ability to parry. Of course, I had to run across the living version of those statues that unlocks treasure rooms, where you will always find some unique power-up or weapon. And these catacombs and dungeons of this nature, well, of course, leads to wonderful things such as lead to some unique equipment. Of course, being the weeb I am spotting the I'm just running around with the samurai sword. Enemies will gang up on you, but however, they seem to have a very peculiar weakness to you poke one, and then he will only that one will be focus. And every now and then you will see ghosts of people that died. Because as it currently stands, the blood pools are not working as intended. Because you're supposed to click on them and seize people's final moment. So far, I can see no such thing. And yes, this is a trap on the floor. Hey, you should die. Oh, right. But yeah, it's fun, but apparently the console version is more just working better. Although, speaking of bosses and challenges ahead, it's Souls, so it wouldn't be complete without a half-naked man trying to murder you with his hammer. Of course, there is a lot better on the invincibility frames. However, I feel that the enemy is having sometimes way too many relentless chain attacks in a row. Up to at least somewhere between 1 and 5 depending on the enemy. And that can be a bit irritating. I did eventually just turn off the music because it get boring, irritating, and it's okay. Well, this boring, irritating background drone. So anyways, if you like the game, well, you can buy it. If you... what you see is what you get. You wander around in a big, giant world, seeing things, killing monsters, and getting brutalized by a big baddie, while wearing a set of horns on the head and a jellyfish shield.